In a recent video I made about going from 0 Japanese to N1 in 4 years, I got a lot of questions about specific details like how many hours a day did you study? Did you use memorization apps like Anki? And how did you learn to read kanji? So I'm going to explain how I study Japanese from the morning until night, and I'm going to answer these questions at the same time. So how many hours a day did I study? Well, at least 6 hours a day, sometimes 7 or 8 hours a day. And you might be thinking, how does this guy have so much free time? Well, I had a full-time job then, I still have a full-time job now, but I'm going to explain how you can fit this much into your day as well. So a lot of that time comes from listening, but listening is one of the things that you should be spending most of the time on. When you learned your native language, it started with listening. You didn't start to learn to read and write till much later. Listening is the first step to learning any language. So first thing in the morning, I wake up, I have my headphones next to me, I put them on and I start listening to Japanese before I even get out of bed. And for that, podcasts are the best. So check out the video I made recommending the 30 best podcasts you can use to study Japanese. So I get out of bed, I'm listening to Japanese while making coffee, making breakfast. Now I've got a daughter, so I'm making her breakfast too. And in the previous video, I talked about how I used the book Remembering the Kanji to learn kanji and how I used Tae Kim's guide to get a grasp of basic Japanese grammar. And for the first few months while I was eating breakfast, I would be working on either one of these. With RTK, I did about 30 kanji a day and I was finished in about 2.5 to 3 months. And this book teaches you ways to make up little stories to help your memory. So what worked best for me was just to blast through the book as quickly as possible, get a loose understanding, and then just start trying to read Japanese. So read some manga, read some simple news stories like the NHK Easy News, and I would just jog my memory when I forgot them. But I found doing it this way just gets you straight into like really learning Japanese, and you can really start enjoying yourself instead of just taking a long time to learn kanji and then finally start reading things and start actually enjoying yourself. So that was for the first few months, and then after that I started working through Anki flashcards while eating breakfast. And Anki is an app that uses spaced repetition to help you memorize things. I downloaded a pre-made deck that had the most common 6,000 Japanese words in sentences with context, and I worked through that for a while, but I found that after about 2,000 or so, they weren't really sticking in my memory very well. And I found that making my own flashcards was much more productive and again, much more fun, much more practical. So while reading, while listening to things, when I picked up a new bit of grammar or some new vocabulary that I thought I want to remember, I would put that into a flashcard with the Japanese sentence on the front and at the beginning with an English explanation on the back. But as soon as possible, I transitioned to using just a Japanese explanation on the back. So that could be from the Japanese dictionary, or it could be from a website where someone's explaining grammar in Japanese. And I would really recommend trying to do that as soon as possible, because if you've been studying Japanese for a while, you'll know that most things cannot be directly translated. And I think the more Japanese I learn, the more I realize that English and Japanese are just totally different. And if you're always trying to translate things into English, you're going to get a kind of false idea of what things actually mean, and you won't get a deep understanding of how to really use this vocabulary and grammar. So first few months eating breakfast with RTK or Tae Kim, after that using Anki. So after breakfast, back to listening. It could be podcasts, it could be YouTube or Netflix, kind of just half glancing at it while washing up, getting ready, brushing my teeth, that kind of thing, and getting out of the house. So that's already an hour of study and my day hasn't even really started yet. And next was getting to work, and I've lived in a few different places since I started studying Japanese. So sometimes I'd be taking the train, and when I was taking the train, I'd be watching something in Japanese, reading something in Japanese, or maybe finishing off my flashcards if I didn't have enough time in the morning. When I lived in Okinawa, I had to drive to work, so obviously it wouldn't be very safe to be reading or watching something, so I would just listen to something and sometimes even shadow. If you don't know what shadowing is, it's when you simply listen to something and copy what the speaker is saying. So by the time I've got to work, that's already 2 hours. And then during lunch break, that's another hour where I can listen while I go to get some food, or I can watch something or read something while I'm eating. And then during your day, and I think this is one of the most important things, you have to try to use every free moment of time you have. Basically, whenever I'm not talking with anyone, I'm usually listening to Japanese or trying to read something in Japanese. And this is the important part. If you want to learn Japanese as quickly as possible, then you need to try to use every spare moment you have in your day. So for example, when I'm at work, even if I just go to the bathroom, I'll put on my headphones while I walk to the bathroom, while I'm doing my business and while I'm coming back. So that's another 5 minutes. And every time you go to the bathroom, you're racking up 5 minutes. Or if you're out somewhere in a cafe, you're waiting in line, That's 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe if there's a long line, and you can look up some grammar point you've been thinking about. You can quickly open up some news and read it. There's a lot you can do with all these little 5-minute breaks during the day, and they really add up. So then once I get home, I keep my headphones on and I keep listening while I'm cooking or cleaning or doing anything around the house. Also, on the way home, if I stop by the gym to exercise or if I go to the supermarket, same story, keep listening to Japanese. And this is really the key. Get hold of some good headphones, preferably noise cancelling headphones with some good casing, so if you're walking around the town, you can actually hear what you're listening to. And just whenever you're not interacting with anyone, whenever you're not talking to anyone, just keep listening to Japanese and you'll find that you can get hours and hours of study into every day, even a busy one. Then of course, after dinner, after cleaning, most of us have free time. That's usually when I have my free time. So I just watch something or read something or maybe look up some grammar that's a bit complicated that I feel like I need to spend some more time concentrating on. So that's it. It's really quite simple. I remember at the beginning stages, I was like, how do you go about this immersion learning? It seemed really complicated, but it really is as simple as just any spare moment in your day, try to get some Japanese into your brain. And that's it. The last point I'd like to make is remember that you have a life too. At the beginning, I did get too into this. I was like wearing my headphones while I was walking down the street with my wife because I thought, well, she's not talking to me, I'll put my headphones in. But my wife said she started to feel like she was living with this ghost that never interacted with her. So don't forget about your life balance as well. Like I said, these days I have a daughter. So of course, I don't want to be like reading when my daughter's trying to interact with me. So usually these days I'm just listening when I'm walking by myself, or in the evening when I have time, I read something or watch something. When my daughter's taking a nap, use that time. So really it's the same thing again. If you're a busy person, if you're a family person or working person, you might have less time. But again, just try to use any time that you do have when you're not interacting with people or when you're not doing something really important. Then try to use that time to get a bit of Japanese in your day. And that's also going to be much easier if you find something you really like. Sometimes it's quite hard. You know, I come from the UK. My culture is quite different from Japanese culture. So sometimes I don't find Japanese movies or TV shows that interesting, but I just keep searching until I do find something I like. And then I make sure I've got a lot backed up. So I've always got something that I'm keen to watch or keen to read, and that's something that's definitely really important for your motivation. So if you have any advice for others or questions, please comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I'll see all of you guys back here next time.